All right, we are on part 2 with our 3-column notes for lesson 58, customary length and weight. Let's go ahead and put our heading, name, number, date, first and last in cursive. Put your number. Date is, remember to write the date you're actually doing these notes, not necessarily the date I'm writing. Our subject is math. All right, so now we're looking at either our customary system of length or weight, and we want to figure out which one's the most appropriate. So if we were to measure a highway, if you wanted to use the height of a chair to measure how long a highway is, that would be pretty hard to do. So anything smaller than that wouldn't make sense either. Using little paper clips to measure the length of a highway would take a very, very long time. So a highway is too big to use the height of a chair, or about the length of a baseball bat. It's similar to a meter. 4 times around the track is best. So that 4 times around the track, that would be miles. Height of a chair, that would be your yards. So yard would be too small. So anything smaller than that would be even more too small, if you can have that. So the best unit of measure would be that 4 times around a track, or a mile. And that's why things are measured in miles on highways. Miles would be the most appropriate unit to use. Okay, width of a ribbon. So a ribbon is probably about, usually something like this you'd have as a ribbon. Somewhere around there. So that would be definitely more likely to be using this. Anything bigger than that would be much too big. Definitely not an egg carton, which is about a foot. The width of a ribbon is too small to use an egg carton, which is about a foot. A small paper clip is best. Still may be a little bit bigger, but still that is better. Anything bigger than an egg carton would definitely not work either. So a small paper clip, or an inch. Inches. Would be the most appropriate unit to use. If we were looking at a football field, what would be the most appropriate? A football field is too big to use egg cartons. So feet are too small and too small to use 4 times around a track, especially since a track is actually usually around a football field. Going 4 times around the football field was much longer than the football field. The height of a chair is best. So if I were to use the height of a chair, put chairs end to end, that would be the best way to measure a football field. And that's actually the unit we do use. That's why there's so many yards, 10 yards till the next down. So it's already measured out in yards, the 50-yard line. That is the unit of measure used for football fields. Yards would be the most appropriate unit to use. There's 100 yards in a football field. If we were to use feet, then 12 times 100 would be 1,200. And instead of having a 50-yard line, you'd have a 600-yard line. A 600-foot line. So yards make much more sense than feet, and definitely miles are much too long. Okay, then last one, dealing with length. Length of a desk. So if you see your desk in front of you, what would be most likely to use? Paper clips could work, but they're a little on the small side. A cartons probably would be a little bit better. The height of the chair for the double desks could work, but for a regular desk, maybe just too much. So the length of a desk is too big for paper clips and too small for the height of a chair. An egg carton would be best. So that length of an egg carton is actually a foot, but plural we use feet. Feet would be the most appropriate unit to use. All right, now we're going to look at weight. So our weights are ounces, which is like about a slice of a bread, pounds, which is like a loaf of bread, or tons, the bread truck. So if we wanted to measure a car, you can also think about the ease of being able to pick it up. Could you easily pick it up without any effort? Could you pick it up at all without use of a machine? Cars usually need help of a machine to pick up. So a car is too big to use a loaf of bread. It would need a machine to pick up. If you need a machine to pick it up, you would want to use tons. Tons would be the most appropriate unit to use. Okay, if we're thinking about a person, using the weight of a slice of bread wouldn't make much sense. It's for ounces, it's something that doesn't take much effort to lift. For pounds, it's something you can lift, may take some effort though. And tons, you can't lift it without a machine. So a football player is too big to use slices of bread, but you can pick up without a machine. Even if it takes a couple of people, you don't need a machine to do it. So if you don't need a machine, but it's more than you would use a slice of bread to compare to, pounds would be the most appropriate. Unit to use. Okay, so apparently on my copy it didn't copy very well. If you have the same problem, I'm sorry about that. Yours may be fine though. If you do have one like mine, this bottom word here is a fork. So an eating utensil, does that take much effort to lift a fork? Is it pretty easy to lift up, or do you need to take a little bit more effort with it? Do you need a machine to pick it up? Most forks are fairly light, especially if it's made out of plastic, depending on the material. So comparing it to a slice of bread would make more sense than to compare it to a loaf of bread. So a fork is too small to compare to a loaf of bread and is easy to pick up. So if it's easy to pick up, ounces would be the most appropriate measurement. So now that we have looked at our customary units of length and weight, you need to do some more practice to think about which unit, miles, inches, yards, feet, or tons, pounds, ounces, which one is the most appropriate to use for measuring. Thank you for joining me.